it is great to be joined by Andrew Caley. He does amazing work over at Covers. He, much like myself, absolutely loves baseball. And on my preseason edition of the Baseball Betting Show with Greg Peterson, which you're able to subscribe to wherever you get your podcast, you were able to hear some of Andrew Caley's futures bets for this year. And Andrew, great to have you aboard. Thank you.
Thanks for having me aboard. I'm always excited to talk some seams and some bettings with you, Greg.
Absolutely. And Andrew, we have actually seen some openers come out when it comes to Major League Baseball getting set for the upcoming season. I know that one that caught your eye is this New York Mets versus Miami Marlins game. It is going to be Sandy Alcantara going up against Mad Max Scherzer. And right now we're seeing the Marlins right around even money. And as long as I could get that out here in Las Vegas, because being based in Las Vegas, cannot bet at DraftKings. But that said, as long as I could get that sort of number here, I am going to be on the Miami Marlins. I'm not sure where you stand, but with the Mets, I feel like they were the biggest beneficiaries of everything that happened in the World Baseball Classic, and it just feels like a squad that has a lot of big-name talent, but at the same time, aging big-name talent, which typically that doesn't go well.
Aging is a good word for the team here. I hope for Mets fans that things go well in New York this year, but I'm with you. I like Miami in this opening day game. Alcantara obviously coming off his Cy Young Awards season. He was solid in 4 starts against the Mets last year. And when it comes to early season baseball betting, it's not like other sports. We have splits against teams for starting pitchers, which you can go back and for the most part you can be like, oh, well, Alcantara pitched well against the Mets, and you can use that data to help with your bets early on in baseball betting, which is something you don't get in a lot of other sports. 3.33 ERA and 4 starts against them last season. I'll also be looking at the under first 5 innings. No totals on the board for this game yet, but Max Scherzer has been one of the most fun guys I've seen so far when it comes to the new pitch clock. He seems to have tested it every which way possible to see what he can and cannot get away with when it comes to when he actually starts his release and what umpires are really going to call for him. He's prepared for this season. I think he's going to do a lot of stuff with quick pitches as well. As soon as those batters are in the box, I bet you're going to see that ball come in from Scherzer pretty quick. So I like pitching to be the story early in this game as well.
I agree with you. And in terms of some of the DraftKings openers that we saw, because right now we're seeing run lines and we are seeing money lines. Currently, there are no totals up on the board. Were there any lines in particular that did have you surprised? Because I know you're a fan of the Toronto Blue Jays, and personally, I posted up my handicaps about an hour ago at GN_D1 on Twitter. If you're on VSiN.com as well, you're able to find my handicap lines every single day when it comes to the MLB season, much like in college basketball. And I saw the Blue Jays open up at minus 105, a slight underdog against the St. Louis Cardinals, and with Alek Manoah going, I personally made them a slight favorite despite them being on the road in this one.
That's probably because the Cardinals are starting Miles McCollum in this game.
Yep.
And while he's a solid starter, he's not your typical ace, and he's not the guy that obviously the Cardinals would like to be starting in game 1 of the season, but I don't want to sound like too much of a homer here, but I like the way that the Blue Jays lineup is set up for this season. They went out and they got some left-handed bats to make it more balanced, and I think they could be trouble for a lot of teams this year. And in this matchup, Manoah, he was one of the most consistent starters in baseball all of last season. Tons of quality starts last year. He's a solid guy to back. Maybe even looking at the Jays on the 5-inning money line in this one as well.
Yep, well, I'm in total agreement with you. It just feels like a little bit of a pitching mismatch for me in this one. If it was Jose Barrios, well, maybe not willing to dive in on the Toronto Blue Jays in this one. But also, we always saw big, giant numbers on Jacob deGrom when he was with the New York Mets. And I recognize that he didn't necessarily get in the world's greatest amount of spring training innings or anything like that. He's going to be at home making his debut for the Texas Rangers, and right now the Rangers are minus 120 against the Philadelphia Phillies. All the credit in the world for the Phillies making a World Series run, and Aaron Nola was better on the road last year. Aaron Nola throughout his career has had massive home and road splits, and are we saying that Jacob deGrom being away from the Mets where in all but 1 year, the Mets were not necessarily too good, should be causing north of a 50-cent difference from what I've seen gathering all my data? I don't think so.
It's a really intriguing matchup. Obviously, the Phillies coming off that great season. I kind of like the value with the Phillies here. I think I like the balance, like not the balance, just the lineup in general is arguably one of the best in baseball. Trey Turner is one of the beneficiaries of the World Baseball Classic. He can't stop hitting home runs right now. As long as JT Realmuto doesn't get tossed from the game for flipping his glove like
that was ridiculous, by the way.
Good grief! That was so fantastic.
That man should never umpire another game in his life.
And it was so awful. But the lineup's one of the best in baseball. Nola's like you said, he does have some interesting home road splits, but I still think he's one of the more underrated aces in baseball right now. And this Phillies team feels like, even without Bryce Harper for the next couple months, like they have some business to finish when it comes to winning that World Series. It will be tough in that National League East this year, but obviously, we're hoping the best for DeGrom. He hasn't shown how healthy he can be yet. He's ready to go for this game, so that's a start. But this Texas Rangers lineup was not good last year outside of Corey Seager and Marcus Semien. Not a lot of depth there, and they didn't do a lot to improve it this year as well. So it'll be interesting to see how they perform in this game against a good starter like Nola.
Yep, absolutely. And I know that there are a few futures that you did take now. With regards to a lot of the actual season win totals, I know that you've joined me on this show along with my podcast to take a look at some of them, but I know that there is one player award that you're taking a look at that I think is very intriguing. You're taking a look at Christian Javier to be able to win Cy Young. Currently at DraftKings, I'm seeing that at 18-1. I know that this was 20-1 a little bit earlier. It seems like a lot of places have been shortening the number on them. Take me through what you do like with Christian Javier, because I'm with you. I do think that there's good value on it. Personally, I have not bet it, but if I were to take a look at the Cy Young awards market, this would be one of the first places I would be looking.
Another thing to back him at, I'm all in on Christian Javier this year. You can still get him at plus 3,500 to lead the major leagues in strikeouts this year. He struck out 194 batters in just 148 and 2/3 innings last year. That would have been the second highest strikeouts per 9 inning in baseball among qualified starters. He just didn't have enough innings to be considered a qualified starter. I expect him to have a much larger role this year in that Astros rotation. Houston's always been kind of funny to this point when using him. He's bounced back and forth a bit between the pen and the rotation. He gets pulled after 5 innings a lot, sometimes due to walks because he does have control issues sometimes. But now with Justin Verlander, a New York Met, I expect him to have a much more prominent role and relied on more heavily for this Houston Astros team. And he just has fantastic stuff. That's what it comes down to, is a fantastic fastball and several other pitches, off-speed pitches that keep hitters off balance. And he could rack up the strikeouts this year for a Houston team that should probably win close to 100 games again this year.
And what I thought was so interesting about the Astros as well is that while you were able to make a lot of money on the money line off of them, they were also the top under team in all of baseball, with north of 60% of their games going under. Could you maybe see, maybe not 60%, because that's just ridiculous. We haven't seen that in baseball in a long time, and I don't think that is going to be duplicated, but them be a little bit more of an under team this year, because I think especially with Jose Altuve being out for the first 2 or so months of the season, we could see an Astros team that their reputation of being this great offensive team follows them, when in reality, it's actually the pitching that is the strength of this team.
It is the strength of this team. I will say, though, I have another little futures bet, and that's, I think I'm going to jump on a Kyle Tucker to win MVP this year as well. He is one of these guys who got shifted a lot against last year, one of the most in the major leagues, and he still had a fantastic season. And I think without the shift, he could be primed for a really, really big season for that Houston Astros team.
And I mean, this Astros team is just a factory. A lot of these guys are a little bit less heralded as prospects. They get to the big leagues with the Astros and boom, they just produce.
Visit VSiN.com to get current odds, listen for free, find showtimes, and download VSiN sports betting podcasts.